Hi everyone, and welcome to my video on the history of Japan. Japan is a country with a rich and fascinating history, dating back over 10,000 years. In this video, I'll give you a brief overview of some of the key events and periods in Japanese history. The Jomon period. The earliest known inhabitants of Japan were the Jomon people, who lived from around 10,000 to 300 BCE. The Jomon people were hunter-gatherers who lived in simple pit houses. They were skilled in making pottery, and their culture was rich in symbolism. The Yayoi period. The Yayoi period began around 300 BCE, and it was a time of great change in Japan. During this period, Japan was introduced to rice cultivation, metalworking, and writing. The Yayoi people also built the first large cities in Japan. The Kofun period. The Kofun period began around 300 CE, and it was a time of great political and military consolidation in Japan. During this period, Japan was ruled by a series of powerful clans, and large burial mounds were built for the elite. The Asuka period. The Asuka period began around 550 CE, and it was a time of great cultural and religious change in Japan. During this period, Japan was introduced to Buddhism and Confucianism, and the Japanese language was standardized. The Nara period. The Nara period began around 710 CE, and it was a time of great political and economic development in Japan. During this period, Japan was ruled by a centralized government, and the capital was moved to Nara. The Heian period. The Heian period began around 794 CE, and it was a time of great cultural and artistic achievement in Japan. During this period, Japan's capital was moved to Kyoto, and the Japanese court became a center of learning and refinement. The Kamakura period. The Kamakura period began around 1185 CE, and it was a time of military rule in Japan. During this period, the shogun, or military leader, became the de facto ruler of Japan. The Muromachi period. The Muromachi period began around 1333 CE, and it was a time of political instability in Japan. During this period, Japan was divided into a number of warring states. The Edo period. The Edo period began around 1603 CE, and it was a time of peace and prosperity in Japan. During this period, Japan was ruled by the Tokugawa shogunate, and the capital was moved to Edo, modern-day Tokyo. The Meiji Restoration. The Meiji Restoration began in 1868 CE, and it was a time of great political and social change in Japan. During this period, Japan was reunited under the emperor, and the country embarked on a program of modernization. The Taisho period. The Taisho period began in 1912 CE, and it was a time of relative peace and stability in Japan. During this period, Japan became a major world power, and it played a significant role in World War I. The Showa period. The Showa period began in 1926 CE, and it was a time of great upheaval in Japan. During this period, Japan invaded China and other parts of Asia, and it eventually became involved in World War II. The post-war period. The post-war period began in 1945 CE, and it has been a time of great economic and social development in Japan. During this period, Japan has become a leading economic power, and it has also become a major cultural and technological center. That's just a brief overview of the history of Japan. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I encourage you to learn more about this fascinating country. Thanks for watching. I am here today to talk about the history of Kung Fu, one of the most ancient and popular martial arts in the world. Kung Fu is a Chinese term that literally means hard work or cultivation of the human body. It is a broad term that encompasses a wide variety of martial arts, including Shaolin Kung Fu, Wing Chun Kung Fu, and Tai Chi. The history of Kung Fu is long and complex, dating back over 2,000 years. The earliest forms of Kung Fu were developed by Chinese monks in the Shaolin Temple. These monks used Kung Fu for self-defense and for spiritual enlightenment. Over time, Kung Fu spread throughout China and evolved into a variety of different styles. Each style has its own unique techniques and philosophy. Some styles are more focused on self-defense, while others are more focused on competition. In the 20th century, Kung Fu became increasingly popular outside of China. This was due in part to the success of Bruce Lee, who brought Kung Fu to the attention of the world through his movies and martial arts philosophy. Today, Kung Fu is practiced by millions of people around the world. It is a popular form of exercise, self-defense, and spiritual practice. The early history of Kung Fu. The earliest forms of Kung Fu were developed by Chinese monks in the Shaolin Temple. The Shaolin Temple is a Buddhist monastery located in the Henan province of China. The monks at the Shaolin Temple were dedicated to the practice of Buddhism and to the pursuit of physical and spiritual enlightenment. The monks at the Shaolin Temple began to develop Kung Fu as a way to defend themselves against bandits and other threats. They also used Kung Fu for spiritual practice, believing that it could help them to achieve enlightenment. The earliest forms of Kung Fu were based on the principles of Tai Chi, a Chinese martial art that emphasizes balance and harmony. The monks at the Shaolin Temple adapted these principles to create a more dynamic and aggressive form of martial arts. The spread of Kung Fu. Over time, Kung Fu spread throughout China and evolved into a variety of different styles. Each style has its own unique techniques and philosophy. Some styles are more focused on self-defense, while others are more focused on competition. Some of the most popular styles of Kung Fu include Shaolin Kung Fu, the original form of Kung Fu, developed by the monks at the Shaolin Temple. Wing Chun Kung Fu, a style of Kung Fu that is known for its emphasis on close-range combat. Tai Chi, a style of Kung Fu that emphasizes balance and harmony. Sanda, a style of Kung Fu that is focused on competition. Kung Fu in the 20th century. In the 20th century, Kung Fu became increasingly popular outside of China. This was due in part to the success of Bruce Lee, who brought Kung Fu to the attention of the world through his movies and martial arts philosophy. Bruce Lee was a Chinese-American martial artist who was born in San Francisco, California. He began training in Kung Fu at a young age, and he quickly became one of the most accomplished martial artists in the world. Lee's movies, such as The Big Boss and Enter the Dragon, helped to popularize Kung Fu around the world. His martial arts philosophy, which emphasized the importance of flexibility and improvisation, also had a profound impact on the way people think about martial arts. Today, Kung Fu is practiced by millions of people around the world. It is a popular form of exercise, self-defense, and spiritual practice. Kung Fu is also a popular subject of movies and television shows. There have been countless Kung Fu movies made over the years, and many of them have become classics. Kung Fu is a fascinating and complex martial art with a long and rich history. It is a discipline that can be both physically and spiritually demanding, but it is also a rewarding one. Conclusion. Kung Fu is a powerful and versatile martial art that can be used for self-defense, competition, or spiritual practice. It is a discipline that has been practiced for centuries, and it continues to be popular today. If you are interested in learning more about Kung Fu, there are many resources available. You can find Kung Fu schools in most major cities, and there are also many books and websites that can teach you about the basics of Kung Fu. I encourage you to explore the world of Kung Fu. It is a discipline that can help you to become stronger, more confident, and more in touch with your inner self.
Introduction. Ninjas are one of the most fascinating and mysterious figures in Japanese history. They were skilled in espionage, sabotage, and assassination, and their techniques were often shrouded in secrecy. But what is the true history of ninjas? Where did they come from, and what were their roles in Japanese society? The origins of ninjas. The origins of ninjas are shrouded in mystery. Some historians believe that they originated in the Heian period, 794–1185, when Japan was divided into many small kingdoms. These kingdoms often engaged in warfare, and some people developed specialized skills in espionage and sabotage in order to help their side win. Other historians believe that ninjas originated in the Sengoku period, 1467–1603, when Japan was in a state of civil war. During this time, there was a great demand for skilled warriors who could gather intelligence, infiltrate enemy strongholds, and assassinate key figures. The rise of ninjas. Ninjas reached the height of their power during the Sengoku period. They were employed by both daimyo, feudal lords, and shoguns, military rulers, and they played a significant role in the outcome of many battles. Ninjas were trained in a variety of skills, including ninjutsu, a collection of fundamental survivalist techniques that focus on unconventional warfare, sabotage, and espionage. Taijutsu, a form of unarmed combat that emphasizes strikes, throws, and grappling. Shurikenjutsu, the art of throwing sharp objects, such as stars and darts. Bojutsu, the art of using a long staff. Ninpo, the art of stealth and concealment. The decline of ninjas. The power of ninjas began to decline in the Edo period, 1603–1868. This was due to a number of factors, including the unification of Japan under the Tokugawa shoguns, the development of new military technologies, and the rise of a new samurai class. By the end of the Edo period, ninjas were largely obsolete. However, their legacy continues to fascinate people today, and they remain one of the most popular subjects of Japanese popular culture. Conclusion: ninjas are a fascinating and mysterious chapter in Japanese history. They were skilled warriors who used their knowledge of espionage, sabotage, and assassination to achieve their goals. While their power declined in the Edo period, their legacy continues to fascinate people today.